good morning. It is another morning in this beautiful place, the Mullet. This is the Life Roast. I'm John, Big T over here. We got another one coming at you. We are challenging some stuff today, having some uncomfortable conversations. This one's kind of a fun one, actually. I don't know if we're challenging uncomfortable conversations, more like just challenging some negative mindset stuff, right? So today we're talking about how not to be a negative Nancy. We're going to give you some insight into our minds, into the perspective of optimism and happy-go-lucky and fun-loving and joyous. And, you know, this beautiful life that we live and the way that we see things. And, you know, we're going to kind of roast a little bit about how, you know, people are walking around every single day, every day with just this negative, angry, miserable mindset where everything's against them. Everything's going to go wrong. Everybody's out to get them. They're skeptical about all this stuff. And, you know, you find this everywhere you go, right? I mean, they have a term for people who have a face that walk around like this, the whole resting bitch face thing, right?
Yep.
And so we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to roast the pessimism because pessimism has no place here on this show.
Is that the rule?
That is, I mean, it is now, right?
Okay, I like it.
I don't know. I don't have time for that, man. But that's the thing, right? So this is one of those topics I love. I brought this up because, you know, my life for so long I was an angry, miserable human being, right? I thought the world was out to get me. I thought people were out to get me. I thought everything was going to go wrong. And lo and behold, guess what it did, right? And when I lived that. And so like today, being able to be in the position that I'm at mentally, you know, I get it. But at the same time, now that I've seen, I've broken down the illusion, right? Like I've opened the veil and now I've seen through, and now it's just like, I look around and I see this and I'm like, you don't have to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. But how do you tell people that, right? Like, how do you tell people that they don't have to live like that anymore? How do you tell people that there is a different way of living? How do you tell people that they can be optimistic, they can be happier, they can have more fun with life, they can do all these things, and they don't have to be so negative all the time?
You just tell them.
You just tell them.
They just outright listen and hear it straight up. Yeah, we'll see. So I'm with you. I think it's that glass is half full, glass is half empty lifestyle and what we choose to do. And I think our position here, and John said it, we all come from a different world, different background where we're caught up in certain things. And after a while, you'll either hit that certain point in your life where you're like, okay, and I say this a lot in the coaching is, how's that working out for you? Like, your mindset is everything. And you hit that tipping point, if you've ever read The Tipping Point, where you say, okay, enough's enough. And the question is, how do you get there? Like, how do you change from being a pessimist to an optimist? And is it really that much better? And that's really the question is, okay, do you want to wake up? And I said this earlier, do you want to wake up with the thought of, how quickly am I going to get kicked in the balls today? And it's almost like you woke up looking for it. Like, you are going to look around every corner and expect that someone's going to punch you in the face. And I think, wow, what a shitty way to go through life. Like, that's what you do. It's almost like the alarm clock triggers something in your brain that says, today's going to suck. Like, I don't know at what point the day is going to suck worse, but it's just going to suck. Why? Because it's Tuesday. Tuesday. Well, what does Tuesday have to do? Well, for some people, it's Thursday. Whatever it may be, or their only good day is Friday because thank God it's Friday. So it's that idea that we'll have this conversation, thoughts of okay, what gets you going, and then how can we flip that into a better view of why life's pretty damn great and what's in front of you is an opportunity, and how do we make the best of it? Sound about right?
Sounds about right.
All right. This should be interesting.
It should be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the question that I want to go into this with is basically what you were talking about. Like, what do I want my day to look like? What do I want my future to look like? How do I want to feel on a regular basis? Because this is one of the things that I'm going to attack on here, is something that we talk about a lot, and it's the choice, right? You asked, how do you go from pessimism to optimism? And so one of the things that I want to make sure that we grind out is that journey from one to the other, because I feel like it's just like anything else. It's like a muscle. You train it, right? I tell people all the time, like, optimism is a skill, right? It's not something that you just inherit. And I think we're all born like with a level of optimism. I mean, look at kids, right? you look at the innocence of kids and like everything is amazing to them.
Sure.
Everything's going to go right. Like all their fantasies, all the things that, like they come up with the wildest shit and it's like, it's real to them, right? Like they see their future and it's so bright and amazing and all these things. And it's like, it's a skill. It's something that you, as an adult, I don't know where we lost it, man. I guess this is always one of my big, like philosophical questions going through life. It's like, what point in our lives, right? Because if all of us as kids were innocent, fun, happy, joyous, and all these things, like what point in our lives, because I think it's different for everybody. I think depending on what your childhood was like and what your teenage years were like and stuff like this, like my pessimism developed at a really early age, right? Like by the time I was high school, like I thought, like I didn't even think I'd get past my early 20s, right? Like that's how negative I thought about my life. But I know for other people, it wasn't until they started joining the workforce or something, like they were like all like great through high school. And then like all of a sudden they got out of college and it's like, oh my God, Monday.
Yeah.
Right. Like the work Mondays. Right. And it's like, it took them that long to get it, but it's just like, what was that breaking point? Because it's on both sides. What was the breaking point that caused us to have this mentality in the first place? And then what'll be the breaking point where we say enough's enough, you know? But at the end of the day, it's how do I want to feel, right? Because I look at my future and I'm like, man, I can't imagine living the next 40 years and walking around with a grin on my face, treating people like shit because I don't feel good about myself or my life, waking up stressed out, angry, thinking that every opportunity that I have is going to fail, right? Like that's it's just so grim. You know, it's so grim to like, I talk to people about opportunities in the future all the time. I'm like, well, hey, like what, like creating that compelling future. And it's immediately, it's that, you know, what's going to go wrong? How am I going to fail? What's going to happen?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think people really wake up and say, all right, why am I going to fail? What, if they had an idea, do they really think, okay, at what point will this fail? You think that's their first thought?
I don't think it's a conscious thought. I don't think a lot of this is like an active thing, right? Like I think a lot of people in this mentality don't really chase it.
Right.
That's just what they flow with, you know? So I don't know if it is their first thought. I don't know
what keeps them going on this? And I think about this a lot with people just because of the profession I'm in and the stuff that I do. Like we continue to muddle along doing the same stupid shit. And then we bitch about it. And I look at them and I this is open ended. You guys please leave a comment. You know, why do you and you said a choice. Why do you continue to choose the shit life if you're going to bitch about it 24/7? Like to wake up and say, I hate my job. Okay, so freaking change it. Oh, it's not that simple. So there's excuse after excuse after excuse as to why I can't make a change. But out of the next breath, it's, God, does it really suck to be me? It really sucks to be married to who I'm married to. It really sucks to have to go to the same bullshit job that I go to. It really sucks that everything about your life sucks, but you're not willing to make a change. It really sucks how unhealthy I am. Well, shove another fucking Twinkie in your face. Like, I don't get and that's where I look at it. It's like, okay, I know change is tough and no one likes change. You know, everyone gets comfortable. But when we talk about optimism or pessimism, it's kind of like, you know, whether or not we're tricking our brain, and are we willing to trick our brains? It's the old fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it, I'm probably going to answer my own question now is what do you want? Man, I probably have, I could say every single client that I have, I ask that question at least 3 times during any one of our sessions. What is it that you want? What do you think they tell me? They tell me what they don't want.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. Like, well, what do I want? That's a tough question. What do I want? I can tell you what I don't want. I don't want this. I don't want this. Well, what do you have? I have all the shit I don't want. Like, well, that's because all you focus on. You've told me what you don't want. Like, it's amazing how we're so quick. I don't even want to say we, because I don't want to be put in that category. We define our life in a way that it comes true every fucking day. And it's like, wow, well, maybe you should start to own your own reality of, you keep putting it out there and it comes back. Okay, well, how about putting something out differently? Imagine that. Do you notice this in people?
Well, I do. And we talk about the RAS a lot. and I think this is a prime
That's
example
reticular activating system or whatever for those people who haven't watched any other videos.
Fancy words. But that's exactly what it is. So the RAS is one of those, it's like a manifestation in real life, right? Like it's, you think about something so much that you attract everything that leads to it, right? That supports the idea, right? Like if you, and this is one of those things you have to be conscious of, you have to be aware of it, right? But if you have a belief, and we're seeing it on a daily basis, where if you have a preset belief, you're going to find the things that support it. So, and I tell people this all the time when you're like raising a kid and you're like, oh, he's just shy, he's just shy, he's just shy, he's just shy. And you say it 100 times, what do you think your kid's going to be? He's probably going to be shy. So if you wake up every morning and you're like, God, I got to go to work. God, I got to go to work. God, I got to go to work. Right. And that's what you do. You're going to go to work and find every reason to hate your job. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be the things where like Nancy's down there and she's saying hi and she's waving and negative Nancy. I don't know why she's so positive in this situation. Damn it. But you're right. And you walk in and you miss the fact that, oh, this thing that you were so miserable about being broken got fixed. And right. Like, no, you're focusing on all the things that make your job suck, because that's the story that you've told. And that's what a lot of this is. It's like when I was talking about choice, I also mentioned that this isn't always something conscious that I think people do. Right. And I think the RAS plays a huge role in this, where we've created this story now that we just roll with, and that's where the choice comes in. It's like, which story you're telling, because in my mind today, pessimism is a story and optimism is a story, right? I'm creating both of them. I really am. Like, I don't know if everything's going to work out, but that's the story I'm choosing to tell myself, and now my activating system is in the process of making sure that all the things in life match up to that, and that's me trying to manifest a positive future, right? But it's these stories that we're telling ourselves, and it's just a matter of which one we're going to believe and which one we're going to roll with, because that belief is going to create everything else.
Yeah, but where does that come true in life? Like you like, and I get this, because we are over the top, whether we're optimistic or we build our optimism based on just saying, all right, fuck it, let's just do this and we'll work towards the thing. We may hit a few bumps in the road, but we'll get there. What is that stepping off point where someone can actually do that? And I think that's the disconnect I see in some people. Like I am a little more nutty on the optimist side of I've made things out of shit. And people look at me and go, well, how do you do it? Like, I kind of looked at it like I didn't have a choice. Like, I'm not jumping off of a cliff without a parachute. I'm going to rappel down the cliff, because to think, there's optimism and there's the realistic optimism. Like, if we think we're going to stick the landing jumping out of a plane without a parachute, I'm going to go 1,000 out of 1,000 tries. You're not going to do it. But thinking all the way down that I'm going to stick the landing, well, that's unrealistic optimism. That's where probably some people look at me and go, yeah, T, you think too positively and you think everything's going to work out. I don't think that's it. I think it's more or less like, okay, if I know the worst case scenario is I don't die jumping out of a plane without a parachute, is, yeah, I'm going to die. I'm not doing it. But I would jump out of an airplane with a parachute, knowing that there's the potential I could die. But I have a parachute. I have a backup parachute. I trained. I did this. Okay, I think I'm going to stick the landing. I'm pretty positive. Where most people won't even get in the friggin' plane. Can you tell me? And I know this, I'm putting you on the spot. What do you think is that point of no return where you finally get someone to make the choice?
That is a good question, because I think this is individual, right? And because again, I believe optimism is a skill, right? And so when you're talking about that stuff, I look at my optimism and I love the realistic and unrealistic thing, right? Because I think when I talk about this, a lot of people hear the unrealistic side of it. To them, it's unrealistic. To them, a lot of the things that I say are jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Right? That's just how they see it.
Right.
And I don't go into optimism like that. Like, I understand things can go wrong. I do. Like, everything that I take on, like, I'm aware that this could fail. I'm aware that I could get hurt. I'm aware that all these things could happen. I just choose to believe that things are going to work out however they work out, and I'm going to have to be fine regardless.
Right.
for the stepping off point, it's individual. And I think people in our positions are a little bit more apt to being this way. I think people who go through life and don't have real struggles, and I'm not saying you're not struggling, I'm saying like real struggles, who haven't had a bottom, who haven't had some kind of emotional turmoil. I'm talking real turmoil, right? I'm not talking about the superficial stuff like that's going on mostly in the world, right? The problems that we have because we don't have problems.
Right.
But I'm talking about like real life experience. Like for me, my stepping off point literally was I was at the bottom of this hole that I dug myself, and I was sick and tired of it. Right. And it was like one of those things where like things started adding up in my life, and I was able to open my mind just enough. Like I broke through just enough to start seeing something else. Right. I was blessed with that opportunity that was provided to me to see that. And I can't say that it's going to be the same for everybody else. I don't want people to have to go through pain in order to see the positive side of life. But sometimes, I mean, that's honestly what it takes.
Sure.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But really what I got out of that is we all have this point where we have to wake up and say, when is enough enough? Like, when am I going to be sick and tired of my own shit? When am I going to be sick and tired of feeling this way? Like, when am I going to say, you know what? I don't like this. Here I like the role playing thing, right? Like, this is one of the questions that I ask people. What if things do go right? Right? And this is just a game I play with clients all the time, right? When they're giving me resistance about all this stuff, I just say, shut up for a second, right? And I'll tell them, I say, shut up. And just play along with me here for a second. What would life be like if everything worked out? You hit the magic button. We talk about the magic button all the time, right? If you hit that magic button and there was nothing that could stand in your way, what would life be like if all the things that you wanted to do happened, right? If all the wonderful, magical things, right? And I'm not saying, you want to go to, do the unrealistic things. I'm talking about things that are realistic. Like, what if you had, more money? What if you were healthier? What if you were happier? Like, how would that feel? How would it feel to be joyous again? Do you even know what that feels like? Right. But this role play thing, right? Like, so I guess the question would be is, what do I want to feel? And you asked it before, like, how's this working out for me? Am I tired of this yet? I don't know if there's a specific stepping off point for people. I think it's really just getting to the root of that question. I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Here's my, and this is what put me there. And not that I was ever a negative person. It's the old statements of you become what you're surrounded by, or you could see, pick your 5 friends and you're like, those 5, whether it's a financial thing, a personal thing, or whatever. I think in my life, my optimism or my just joy overall is I feed my brain exactly that. I'm an endless connoisseur of books, and when I say books, it's books on tape. Every waking moment, I'm listening to something. Whether if I'm mowing the lawn, I have a podcast that's about business, or a podcast that's about life, or it's a book about health, or whatever it may be. It's constantly feeding myself that story of there's always something more I can do. There's better. There's opportunity. There's all of these things out there where I find a lot of the individuals that are storytellers. And what I mean by storytellers, they're in their head. They have, if you went to the library, they're in the fiction section. They have made up some bullshit in their head. And since they don't feed it with anything but that, and the 4 or 5 people that they hang out with are just as negative as they are, they can't escape it. And then when you hand them something, they're like, "Oh God, this positive bullshit," And I listen. If you know me, I've sent you a YouTube video where I've started listening 5 minutes in, and I literally a name comes to mind. I'm like, "Oh, this is for Kathy," and I send it to Kathy, and I don't even put a caption or anything. I just send it to him. If I see Kathy 3 weeks later, I'll be like, "Hey, did you ever listen to that video I sent you?" No, I didn't even know what it was, so I didn't listen to it. It's like, well, it's not like I contact you a lot. Like if I sent you something, I would think you would at least click it just from a curiosity standpoint, but they're so inside their head, they're not even curious. And I think that's a part of it is, and you said it's like, it's at what point do you finally say enough's enough? Are you at rock bottom? Are you the one that thinks? Can you get to the point where you realize that your shit life or your shit attitude it starts with you? And if you're constantly pointing your finger like, oh, he did this and she did this, and there's no way I'm going to get here because of these people, it's like, wow, that shit attitude right there has continually pointed when you should turn the shit around, and find out that everything about you and every part of where you're at is your own fault. And if you can't own that, I guess you're going to live a pretty fucking angry life, or an unhappy life, or whatever. Find the negative in what it means to be you, and you've chosen to do that, regardless of how much you blame others.
You nailed on something, right? And I go back to this with a lot of stuff. It's those people that you surround yourself with. And I look at my life now, and I look at my life then, and it's like, wow, another prime example, right? Like the people that I used to hang out with, this is crazy, right? Me being so negative back then, the people around me were also pretty negative.
For sure.
Crazy how that works. But people like them, right? I like people like me, right? If I'm trying to be something different and I'm hanging out with people that don't line up with that, I have to start questioning it, right? But the reality is the people that are in these mindsets, this pessimism, I guarantee you the other 5 people around them are also pessimists. Mm-hmm. I promise they are. I guarantee it, right? Because if they were optimistic, they wouldn't want to tolerate your shit.
No. Oh, they call you out immediately.
They call you out. Yeah, right. And so like I look at my friend group now, like the people that my core group, like there's times where we get down. There's times where we get a little depressed. There's times where we talk a little shit about life, right? Or we complain or vent or whatever. But we are immediately calling each other out, mm-hmm. trying to find solutions, trying to uplift spirits and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's my core group. And as long as I hang around with people like that, and that was one of the things at the beginning of this that helped me change my life, was seeing people in a very dark place smile and laugh and play around and look at life in a totally new lens and all this stuff, right? And it's just the people that we surround ourselves is going to matter, right? We talk about environment and stuff like this. I don't think environment's everything, but I think environment does say a lot, right? On who we end up sticking around, right? You go to the bar every Friday night to complain about your life. Guess what's going to happen on Monday morning?
You're going to feel like shit.
You're going to feel like shit. You're going to go back to complain. You're going to find Monday through Friday, you're going to find all the reasons again to go back to the bar and talk to the same people about the same shit, right? I've seen it. I used to work at a bar, right? It's true, right? You're the same people talking about the same things, and you see it everywhere else. It's like, well, what's different with people who aren't doing that? Well, they're hanging around having different conversations. They're reading different books. They're listening to different podcasts. They're like the people who have there's a simple solution to this, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. Right? I talk about it's a skill. Start with one book, start with one friend, start with one show, start with one podcast, start with one page. I don't care. I can give you a list of 10 books right now that if you just read the first page, you might be interested enough to read the rest.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? I have, you said something. There's this guy in my life who I don't hang out with for this reason, but it's funny because every time I'm around, he complains about the same thing. Mm-hmm. Over like every single time, and it drives me crazy. But like at this point, like I'm somewhat I'm like friends with him, right? We don't hang around a lot because of the attitude, but he almost gets like mad when I do come around because he knows what's going to happen, and he still does it. And I think like a lot of people are like this. I've noticed where they know that I'm going to respond with something that's going to break their cycle, because I think everybody wants that. Right. And I don't know if you believe this, but I think deep down, like everybody wants to be more at peace. Everybody wants to be happier. Everybody wants to have more fun. Everybody wants to be more lighthearted. Right. And they're like, there's a part of them that's still clinging on to this idea that they can be. And so like, I think like that might be part of the way that some people reach out, where like they complain to optimistic people, knowing that they're going to get called out. And maybe, hopefully, I'm going to keep doing it. Right. Because like, that's just me. And I'm going to be a total dick about it. Right. In a fun loving way. Right. But it's to snap out of that mentality. But it's just, there's people like that walking around everywhere. And it's like, there is another way. I don't know how else to.
No, I get it. I think that's And it's what we said. It's kind of like building a muscle. I've built my mentality, if that's the word, over time. It's not like I just came out of the womb and said, holy shit, this is going to be awesome. Life's going to be grand. Because I had my windows of time where I was like, life sucks. Like college. I went to college and thought, this is so dumb. I just get drunk every week and I hang out and I do all this stupid stuff. Like, is this really what life's all about? Like, I should join the army and have someone kick the shit out of me. And I should do all these things. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was in this unknown area. And then over time, I pulled out of it and got to where I'm at now. But I watch some of you negative people, if you're listening, and it's like you feed the engine of negativity every single day by continually following that same shitty path. And again, you become what you're surrounded by. If I took a super health conscious person that ate right and worked out every day and dropped them off on an island where there were 50 smokers.
Ooh.
And they didn't work out and they watched movies all day long and they just sat around. They did nothing. Not that any one of these things are bad. If you want to do them. I don't give a shit. But if it would only be a matter of time of how that super health conscious guy was smoking and eating and doing, things that went against what he thought was right, because he would get sucked into that. So it's the special person that can stand alone and go, yeah, that's not my thing. It's a hell of a lot easier to make that switch if you consciously say, okay, enough's enough. I can't hang out with these people anymore. And it's not like you go have a meeting and say, okay, listen, I can't hang out with any of you guys anymore. It's really finding someone that you can, work with or be around and say, well, okay, I like hanging out with this person. Like, our conversations are intelligent, and like they ask me questions that I challenge myself and okay, well, wow, I like this. And he's got a friend he keeps talking about, or she's got it, whatever it is. And you meet them and you're like, wow, this is a totally different conversation. So you get sucked into that. But I think on top of that, that's where the podcasts and the books and all that, it's like, if you want something different, well, then go get it. If you want to learn how to build something, you go find a YouTube video, you go find someone that's awesome at it and they show you how to do it, and you slowly start to practice and practice and practice before you know what you can build. But I don't think people ever look at it like from a mentality sense. They just expect that I'm supposed to be positive now. And one negative thing sets them off like, fuck this. I told you it wouldn't work out. It was like, no, it just doesn't happen overnight. You have to build the muscle and you have to work out the muscle every day, and it gets bigger and better. But I'm looking at my screen here because this is the point I wanted to make is sometimes, and I find this a lot, is you can make a change when you focus deeply on someone else and find the positive in them, even if they're the most negative person in the world. It's kind of like you trick yourself. How do you find the light that comes out of someone and realize like, wow, I thought they were like a flaming douchebag, and come to find out, if I look at them differently, like, wow, they really love, and I can think of the circle that I'm in, certain individuals that just, they have the resting bitch face, and that goes for guys and girls.
Oh yeah.
And they have a shit attitude and they do whatever, but it's amazing how they go above and beyond. If you ask them, hey, can you help me out with something? Yeah, they'll show up and bitch and moan, but they'll show up every time. Hey, I got to move this weekend. Like, dude, why do you ask me I hate moving. Like, what time? Like, they've bitched and they've moaned, but they showed up and they worked 7-8 hours with you, sweating their balls off, and they did it. And then they get done. Like, I hate when you call me. Let me know when you need me to come next time. Like, okay, silver lining there is that guy's got you back. Like, that's that positive side of him. Like, can you see that in him? Or are you just like, so annoying when he comes over? Like, he came over to help. Like, that's what you need to see. Find that light in someone else.
I think that's part of the training process, right? Like, so going into this, one of the thoughts was, how do we change our perspective? Because that's what it is. We're training a new perspective. And I think one of the practices that I do that helps me stay optimistic and positive and happy and connected to other people is that silver lining mentality, right? With other people. I think one of the biggest things that, this is why I love psychology. right? This is why like it's a huge thing for me, why I love studying, why I love human behavior and all that stuff, because it helps me understand other people better, right? And so when I'm meeting somebody or I'm around somebody, I always see the light, no matter how annoying they are, right? And some people are really fucking annoying, right? Like with their negativity, right?
I got a bunch. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's just really annoying. But like I've gotten to this point where I can have a little fun with it now. Like I was saying, like with that guy, and like there's other people in my life that I do this to, where it's just like I always have something witty, something fun, something whatever. And just for a moment, these people snap out of their shell for a second, and I see a smile, or I see a smirk, or I see something right that like lights up inside their eyes, right? And especially if you figure out, I'm so big on understanding people, because if you figure out other people, you can bring that out of them. Right. Like if you figure out what it is that they're passionate about, what they enjoy talking about, all these things, right? You can help them steer the conversation to more positive, lighthearted things, but instead, so many of us, because we're caught up in this RAS and we're miserable ourselves. I'm not, but maybe you are, where instead of doing that, they hear the miserable side of it. They hear the negative side of it, and they just validate it. They just jump right in and say, yeah, you're right. That does suck. And then you just have a little bitch session. You're just complaining about things together now, and nobody's changing anything, right? But like, I think one of the coolest things is going through life and just being able to see the light, the silver lining, about everything. It drives them crazy, but like even in like super negative situations and stuff like that, I will always come out of it. How did this serve me?
Sure.
How is this going to make me better? How is this going to make me happier? How is this going to make me stronger? Because it's going to. It is going to, right? But that's the mentality now. And it's the same thing when I approach people. It's like, what are they going through? Can I help? How can I help? How can I help bring out a smile? Right? And I think that's like one of the greatest services. We were talking about how it doesn't really cost anything to be kind. I think this goes hand in hand here. It's like, how hard is it just to smile at somebody?
Yeah. It kind of freaks them out. Like,
so that's
that guy know?
That's actually on my list of things to talk about, right? Because like, how many times have you gone into a grocery store? And I know you're the same way, where you do, or the gym or whatever it is, and you just smile at somebody, and they're just kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Like they give you that face like, I'm going to call the cops on you creep, right? Like, especially in the gym. The gym is like crazy. Like you can't lock eyes with somebody for more than a millisecond and smile at them, right? You can. There's still good people at the gym and stuff like that, but there's people there that literally, if you just glance at,
yep,
in your beaming, right? Like you are a weirdo.
Yeah. But I think society's built that in again, from the negative side, it's what's your motive? Why are you looking at me?
Mm-hmm.
The gym now, and it's a great example is, these young ladies that wear all this fancy shit to the gym, and they're tight clothing, and their belly's exposed and their boobs are hanging out of their thing. And there's all this stuff. And a guy looks at you for half a second. What are you looking at? Like, holy shit. Like, A, drop your attitude, and B, if you don't want people to look at you, don't wear that shit. I can wear whatever I want, and I should be comfortable, and I shouldn't have anyone looking. Like, wow, that mentality of just, you believe that some guy's gawking you, and you've put out this look. So it's like you've confused the hell out of all of us from what your intentions are, or maybe I don't know if you had intentions, but I look at it like that's what you're putting out in the world. And when you get it back, you're angry. So it's like, wow, what are you doing? If you look good and you think, and we used to joke in college about all this stuff. My brother and I would get dressed up, feeling good about going up to the bar. And whether someone was looking at us or not, they could have been looking past, especially girls. It was about girls. It wasn't about guys. Well, mm-hmm. We used to joke and say, that girl owes me money. You don't get to stare at me for free. Like, we were totally arrogant dumbasses. But it was more of a joke, like, how much money did you make tonight? I was like, dude, $80. I had this one chick look at me 10 times. And then you find out, like, the TV was over your head. She wasn't really looking at you. She was seeing what was going on the TV. But the idea that we would have fun at it, like someone was looking at us, whereas people have these attitudes, like, why are they looking at me? I don't know, maybe because you look great. Or maybe, like, your hairstyle looks good. I mean, you want to freak someone out? Like, and this is where the creepy comes in. Like, I've seen people, guys and girls, where I've said to him as a complete stranger, and people probably think I'm nuts, damn, you look fantastic today. Like, I've seen a dude just laid out in a suit, like, man, that dude is rolling right now. He could be on a movie. And I look at him like, brother, you're looking good. And they'll kind of give me like the first look like I'm coming on to them. And then they'll be like, that suit, you got that suit going. And then smile across their face like, I appreciate that. And then others, like you say it to a lady, I have to watch out, and exactly how I say it. But like,
right,
you look good, and someone tried to make your day, and your attitude is, oh, you creep. Oh, you're coming on to me. Like, no, I'm not. I just thought I'd share a friendly, you look nice today. No, it's like in the head, and maybe I'm going off on a tangent here, but
no.
That's the idea. Like, why in your mind do you automatically go to the negative? Like this dude's a freak show, or he's coming on to me, or whatever.
So that's what I was getting at, though. It's like we as a society, and I don't know if this is everywhere else, but I know in like our culture, it's becoming normal to not be that way. I'm seeing like every day, right? So like we have this idea that everybody has an ulterior motive, that everybody in these cases, especially, and I hate seeing it. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not going to sit here and invalidate the fact that there are some fucking creepy men out there,
sure,
doing weird
ruined
stuff,
it for the rest
right?
of us.
Like, and I'll be the first to call them out if they do, right? But I hate the idea that I have to be careful walking around complimenting people, right? Like I can't just go around like and say that to a lot of people, because they're going to try to, like, you see it with the video. I don't know if you've ever seen the gym videos where they take it a step further. It's like a guy glances over because the girl's doing like RDLs in front of him in yoga pants that are like half up her butt, but she's doing it on her Instagram page, right? But now this guy literally like scanned the room. She just happened to be there, right? And now it's all over social media, right? And she's blasting this guy. And it's like, I can't do anything. I can't smile at anybody. I can't say hi to anybody, right? Or else I'm going to be some, like, they're going to put me on the news for being some creep. And I'm like, I got a reputation of being not a creep, right? It's like, I don't want to have to worry about that. But it's like, okay, do I let that stop me from being a kind, happy, fun person and smiling at people, right? Because I usually don't. Like, I still go around and smile at everybody. I just smile all the time, like randomly. And again, it's just like, I don't want the world to change my smile, but it's just funny. I think it's such shit that our society is coming to this, like, it's like a victim mentality.
It's 100% a victim mentality.
Right? It's like everybody's trying to victimize me. Everybody's trying to invalidate me. Everybody's trying to, like, get over on me. So like, how do you navigate that?
I think that comes down to the individual. Again, like in those situations, that's a special situation where you got someone that's so full of themselves that someone looks at them and now they turn it into a negative. I think where I go with the whole thing is how do you become the light in the room? And it doesn't mean the light in the room where you're a fucking huge spotlight and you're blinding people with your awesomeness, but it's the idea that you're comfortable in your own skin, that you're willing to give a good compliment, or you're willing to say good morning, or you're willing to say your hair looks nice today, or that's a pretty blouse, or whatever it may be. It's like you're secure in who you are, that if they take it the wrong way, bro, I meant nothing by it. To go to the gym, great example is to go to the gym and to see whether you see a female, us being men, or you see another dude, to go, you're looking pretty damn good. Like, I've seen you here 6, 7, 10 times. Like, I can tell your arms are getting more, a little tighter, and looks like you've lost a couple pounds. Well, that makes someone's fucking day, because they walk in front of the mirror all day long wondering are they making any changes. No one says shit to them. And, your husband or your wife sees you every day, so they don't see the metamorphosis in front of them of the change. So when someone says it to you, you're like, holy shit, that's awesome. That's that light that I mean here. And it's kind of like the more you can give that out, the more you start to see the light in other people. And I think that's the pessimistic optimist difference is, if you're so inside your head that you can't see the awesomeness in someone else, well, you're never coming out of your head. It's like you believe the world is against you. So how can I even look at anyone else and believe they're great? You can't. because your first thought is, what the fuck's their problem? Why they look at me like that? Like, whoa, they have, resting bitch face too. So the two of you, each other offset. It's amazing. So I don't know how to help you do this, but to say, if you can look at the world differently and say, okay, what is that person doing that I think is important or looks good, or they are acting in a different way, and then you can tell them, because the more you tell them, the more you think, well, this is kind of nice. I just put a smile on their face, which put a smile on my face. Smiles are contagious. Oh, smile at someone and see what they do back to you. The freaks will be, what the fuck are you looking at? But most people smile back. It's like a mirror.
It is, so it's like a two-part thing, right? Because I weed a lot of people out by smiling. It's like
the fun.
That's how I find out the people that I probably don't want to have conversations with as well. But it's like that's the coolest thing about going through the store and doing this, right? It's like I will look up, if I make eye contact, I smile. Period. Right. Like that's my rule. And when people smile back, it's so I don't think people understand how rewarding that is. Right? It's just like just smiling together. Right? Like it's so nice. I want to touch on something that you said though, real quick. There's something that I've noticed is a commonality between people who are pessimistic and all this, right? Self-confidence. Right? This negative pessimistic attitude, I think, stems from a very similar place where it's a projection, right? We put this projection on the world with a lot of things. I mean, I do the same thing, right? My projection of the world is a projection of me, right? Like my optimism is received out there and reflected back at me because of who I am and the light that I let out. And it's the same thing, right? If you don't have self-confidence, how are you going to see the world? Very lowly, And so I think that's like one of the tricks here. And one of the things I was writing down is like, one of the things I tell people who have low self-confidence, and you said this, right? Like, what if you just, you probably know this. I don't dress up very often, but dude, when I dress up, I feel amazing. Good.
Yeah.
Right? Like I feel good about myself.
Right.
When I go to the gym, I feel good about myself. Right? Like there's these things that we can do that don't take much. Right? I go out for a hike. I feel good about myself. Right? And there's these things that like most miserable people aren't doing any of this stuff. And if they are dressing up, it's for something that they hate doing. And that's why it's not a beneficial thing. But like there's these things that you can literally trick your mind into thinking. But self-confidence reflects out as pessimism, lack of self-confidence,
The part of self-confidence that I sometimes wonder about, there are those individuals that are self-confident. I'm extremely self-confident, but there's a level of self-confidence that then turns into narcissism. You're so confident in yourself, you think you're amazing. Like you are the shit, and you are willing to let everyone know you're the shit. And at that point, you're like, oh God, you've gone to the other side of the spectrum now, and you brag and you boast and you don't give a shit about other people because you're so awesome. I think that's the level where there's the super negative, and then there's the super positive, and the super positive spins into narcissistic, and that's a rough one. Those are the individuals that you'd say, okay, I don't want to be around you. I don't even ever want to get to the level of your stupidity,
right?
Because of that. But I think a part of whether we talk about optimism or not, or pessimism or whatever, it goes back to the thing we talk about a lot, and it's the playbook. It's what's the plan for your life? Did you wake up with a destination? Because part of optimism is if I know I have to if I know I have to run a marathon, at least when I'm done with the first mile, I'm done with the first mile. Like it sucked, but I only got 25 miles left. So there's a little bit of optimism, like, okay, I'm hurting, but I made it. Whereas those that just sit on the starting line say, this is going to suck. Like I'm not in shape. I can't run. I don't have the cardiovascular system. Like it's excuse. And then they watch one of their friends leave the gate and they're like, well, what are they doing? Well, we were supposed to hang out together right here at the starting line because this is too hard. And it's like, okay, well, where the finish line is. If you're not willing to leave the starting line, well, I don't know how you're ever going to put in your head that you can get somewhere. You just have to be willing to take that first step. And we can use all the cliches and euphemisms and all the bullshit. But that's my point is, if you wake up and you don't even have a finish line, if you can't think of a finish line, something you want, or something you want for someone else, well, then what are you getting up for? Lay in bed and mope. Go to your shitty job. Be the parent that just doesn't give a shit. Like, how about make a plan? Give yourself a destination or a goal. Holy shit, a goal. We shouldn't even say that.
What?
I know. But I think that's my thing that gets me up every day too early. And the pessimist tell me, what do you get up that early? You're so stupid. Why would you get up that early? But it's like, okay, if there's at least a destination daily, I can look at it and say, okay, how much closer did I get? Whew, I'm pretty dang close. I better set that destination out a little bit further because I got some other ideas I want to accomplish too. And I wake up like, let's go. Today's going to be awesome.
Dude, absolutely. And that's like going into this when I was asking that question, like, what do I want? What is the result? Mm-hmm. Like, how do I want to wake up and feel? What do I want to do? Right. And that is the defining characteristic of people that I think that are optimistic and pessimistic. Most pessimistic people that I talk to, they don't have a compelling future. And hell, they don't even have a future that's different from the life that they're living today. And I think that's like, if I knew that every day was going to be the same, right? Why wouldn't I be negative? Like, oh, this fucking sucks. Like, people need change. People need stimulus. People need these things. They need to keep their life interesting, right? If it would depress me too, if I thought that in 5 years I was going to be exactly where I am right now. Mm-hmm. That would depress me for sure. And then I could get stuck in that, the marathon thing was this is like one of those. So we're in the planning, we're in the progress or the process. If I have a goal of doing the finish line, and this is how I go about like my Spartan races and stuff like that, right? Like, I have this goal. I'm going to finish, right? I'm going to finish. And sometimes it's really fucking hard, right? I remember like doing the ultra, right? 35 something miles, right? And you had to go around this loop twice, right? So like
they made you coming the second time.
You knew it was coming the second time. And it was easy to like be like, oh, God, I had such a hard time that first time around. Like, this is going to suck, right? It's easy in the mentality, but then it's literally like, shit, I've already done this once. Right? Like, I've already done it. What's the worst that can, and so this is my question too, is going into this is like, I think one of the questions that I'm always asking, and you touched on this earlier, is like, okay, I have a goal, right? Now I got to create a plan. And it's easy to get caught in that, like, what can go wrong thing, right? Like, I think that's where like a lot of pessimistic people go. And even me, like I told you before, like, I think about the things that could go wrong. Right? I went skydiving. I totally thought when I was signing that waiver about the fact that I could die from this. Right? When I go into these races, like, I go in with the idea that anything can happen. I can fall down a cliff. Right? Shit happens all the time. Right? But then I think about it, of the things that I'm trying to do in life, and I ask, what's the worst that can happen? And here's the funny thing about the worst that can happen. Most of the time, the worst that can happen for people isn't really that bad.
Right.
I'm going to lose some money. I'm going to lose some time. I'm going to lose, my house. I'm going to lose my company. And like, people are like, well, losing your house is pretty serious. And I'm like, yeah, but what are you going to do? If I lost my house today, guess what? I'm going to figure out how to get another one.
Yep.
Right? Like, I'm going to figure it out. If I'm pessimistic, I'm probably just going to go start using drugs again and do stupid shit and go rob something or whatever. But like, the optimistic side of me says, the worst that can happen is I go homeless for a little bit. I'll be able to figure it out, right? That sucks, but I'll live on somebody's couch. I got a car, right? If I lose so I'm always looking at like, the worst that can happen, as long as I don't die, really isn't as bad as I make it seem, even though it could be pretty horrible, right? And that's the silver lining thing. So it's like, but if I'm sitting here making a decision and I'm like, well, I'm probably going to lose like 10 grand. It's like, well, you made the 10 grand the first time, right, dummy?
Make it back.
Just make it back.
Right.
Work harder. Oh, but it's not as easy as it sounds. Like, no, it is. It is. Just get another job. Well, but then I won't have time. Too fucking bad. Right? Like, build it back up and make another dumb decision, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow and that's how we have fun and do cool things in life. Right? Like, what am I doing with 10 grand sitting in my bank account doing nothing?
Right. I agree. I think a part of this is, and I use this a lot in my coaching, is reverse engineer what you want. The problem is people don't know what they want.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I'll talk about reverse engineering, but when you put out there what you don't want, I don't want to be unhealthy. I don't want to be fat. I don't want this job anymore. Well, they put that out, and in their head, they reverse engineer why it sucks. Well, I remember when I got this job, everyone promised this, and then I did this, and then this person got this job over me, and I was more qualified, and they play that out, and like, this is why this job sucks. So you reverse engineer right back into what your future should be is what your reality is today. Whereas I put it out there and say, okay, well, what's your perfect job? What would you love to do? What's your perfect weight? What's your perfect, what is that final destination? Now let's reverse engineer. What would it take to get there? You haven't moved yet. You haven't moved. You haven't done it. It's totally fine. Let's just, and I say everyone should have a whiteboard in their office or in their house or something. Draw it out on the board and say, here's my destination, and work all the way backwards. What would it take to get there? And as you draw that out, it's like, wow, you're devising a plan. There's an attitude that I'm going to need to have to get to each one of these places. And the reality is you'll start to look at it and say, well, that's actually not as hard as I thought it would be. And the idea is you're not reaching for the final destination. You're reaching for the next part of the plan, and then the next part of the plan, and then the next part of the plan. And then before you know it, holy shit, the destination is that much closer. It's like I said, running a marathon. I got to get through the first mile. If I can get through the first mile, I might get through the second mile. Well, shit, you get halfway committed. It's like, well, fuck. I've done 14 miles now. I can't turn back. That would be stupid because I'm halfway done. But people don't think that way. So the optimist in me will always say exactly that. Well, I started. Well, shit, I might as well finish. But if you look at it that way from every aspect of the day, you wake up and you say, all right, my goal today is I am going to tell 25 people they look awesome. I'm going to smile at 25 people. I'm going to make sure that everyone I talk to today, I say at least one positive thing before I go into my negative. Okay. Well, that's my plan. It's 25 people. I'm going to talk to them like, okay, who's my first one? Well, if you're a parent, you're going to walk downstairs and who's there? Your grimy ass kids that are probably not going to listen to you. They're a pain in the ass to get on the bus. They're, they don't want to eat. They don't want anything, but you know what? They're awesome little kids. They had a great game the night before. And my first thought is, dude, you killed it last night. Like you were awesome. Like you second base and you grabbed that and made a double play. First things out of your mouth, positive. What do you think is going to happen to that little man? Probably positive. Like, oh,
it's a momentum builder.
It is, but it's like, okay, you just put it out. The mirror gives it back and says, oh, well, I looked in the mirror and what do I see? I see me. Okay, I put out positivity. I wonder what I'm going to get back. Probably positive. Oh, thanks, Mom. Fuck you. I don't want anything to eat. You're a bad mom. No, I don't think it's going to come out like that. Like those are the parts where I say, okay, now the second person, the third person, the fourth person. Before you know it, you're into this. You're in the third and the fifth and the 10th mile. It's like, okay, you've set the destination. Whereas most people, again, what's my destination? I wonder who's going to kick me in the dick today. You're just waiting for it. So all you see, RAS, that part of your brain says, where is it? Oh, there it is. Bam. First asshole of the day. Yep. I knew it would happen. So it's like, okay, put it out there. It's coming back at you.
That is the biggest, at the end of all of this, right? Like that is the thing, right? If you don't have a goal, you can't create a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're going to be stuck where you already are. And I think that's the worst thing that could possibly happen. We talk about like I would rather lose my house. I'd rather lose my car. I think I'd rather get divorced. And I say this, people call me crazy, than be stuck where I am for the next 10 years of my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? Like that's, but here, you don't have to, right? Like I'm going to try not to, but I have this goal. And that's what's so important about creating the plan is like doing these little practices, right? Like, how do I get to there? Right? Well, you break it down, right? There's simple practices that you can do to change your perspectives, right? You ever heard of like the gratitude challenge? Mm-hmm. Super simple thing to do. Write down 3 new things every day that you're grateful for. After a month, I promise you see the world differently. If you do it
Absolutely.
consistently for 30 days, 3 things a day,
Yep.
you're going to see the world differently. If you go through your life and you want to be happier, more optimistic, and more friendly and kind and stuff like that, if you say, I'm going to talk to 3 new people today, I'm going to say something nice to all 3 of them, I guarantee you after 30 days, your life's going to change. If you went into it with the right mindset, right? Like there's these things that you can do. We talk about, people see that, people draw on the whiteboard, they write point A and point B, and it's not even point B, it's like point Z, right? Like they go from one end of the alphabet to the other alphabet. And they're like, well, that's exactly why I'm never going to change. Because I can't get from there to there.
Right.
It's impossible. And this is the reverse engineering. This is like the playbook that we're always talking about. It's like, okay, well, what about B through Y?
Right.
Right. And we break it down like that. It's like, okay, I don't have to get to Z yet. Fuck Z. I have to get to B. Right. And B is realistic. B I can get to. B I can do today. B is the action that I can take right now. I can walk out of here. The first person I see, I can smile at. Mm-hmm. And when they smile back to me, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's confirmation.
The next person that I go to, I'm going to smile back. And they're not going to smile back. But you know what? Forget it. Because I got a third person that I have to knock off the list. So I'm giving myself an opportunity. Right? I'm not just going to be like, I'm going to smile at the first person. If they don't smile at me, I'm just going to be miserable the rest of the day. Right? Like, but I created a plan. If I stick to the plan, things are going to work out. And if they don't, I move on to C. I move on to D. I move on to E. Right? And hopefully they build momentum until I get to Z. But if you don't have a Z, right? Like this is where people get twisted. It's like, if you don't have a Z, you're fucked. If you have a Z and you can't see B to Y, you're fucked. Like, so you got to make sure you have a plan. But if it's a skill, if optimism is a skill, you can create B through Y. Guarantee it.
And it's also the spin. And I remember this back in my early days of sales and everything else was, and the books tell you this, you can turn a negative into a positive.
Absolutely.
And the big thing was, from a sales technique, was your goal every day from a salesperson's perspective is you need to get 10 no's, because for every 10 no's, you're going to get 1 yes. And you think, well, those odds suck. But you got to look at it like, okay, in order to get 1 yes, I'm going to have to find 10 no's. So I got to go bang on a lot of doors, and I got to know. Okay, that's 1.
Awesome.
I got to know. Okay, that's 2. Maybe by the time I get to the 5th no, I get a yes. Like, okay, well, does that mean I quit my day? No, I would still say, remember, the goal was 10 no's. So I got my yes after 5 no's, and I got a yes. Okay, well, you still got 5 more no's to get. You might find another yes in there. So as a salesperson, it was your negative no's was the positive. Like, my goal is to find people that don't want to buy from me, because in order for me to get to the person that it does want to buy from me, I'm going to have to dig him out amongst all the no's. He's hidden in there. Well, it's the same thing like you said. If I want 10 smiles today, I'm not guaranteed to get 10 smiles. I may get a good morning, how are you? And they just don't even acknowledge that you said it to them. There was no one else in the room. There was no one else coming inside and outside the door. You knew they were talking to you, and yet you gave them like, okay. My goal wasn't to get you to smile. My goal was to make sure that I showed you that I was a happy person, and I did. What you did, not my problem. I can't change you. But it's that looking at it like I'm coming at it, and here's my attitude. Why would I give off? Why do I want to be the negative person? Why do I want to spew the negativity first thing out of my mouth? I'm going to be the different person, the positive person. If it's made up bullshit, like you're faking it, like you're really not positive, but you're like, okay, I'll just feed into this. I'll just smile at people. Like, well, if that's the attitude, your smile's going to look canned and fake and everything else. Like, own it. Be that person. And if you can get 10 people, 10 out of 10 to smile, it's fantastic. I can guarantee you it's probably because your attitude was so big and proud and loud. Like, they couldn't do anything but smile back because you really owned it. It wasn't just a fake good morning. Like, wow, you just sound like you were telling me to go fuck myself with your good morning. So I call it out in a positive, or a negative being a positive, is like, own it. Like, literally own it. Whoever you meet today, find out what's awesome about them. Ask them the right questions, and today's an awesome day. Why not show other people?
What do you have to lose by smiling more?
Nothing.
Take a chance, right? Like, what do you're already where you are. Go 30 days, just 30 days. Smile a little more, say a little bit nicer things, be a little bit more grateful. If at the end of the 30 days, you want to go back to where you're at, whatever, right? More power to you. But how can you say you can't be optimistic and positive if you don't even try?
Challenge yourself with that too. Road rage. Someone wants to, speed up next to you on the highway and get in. And you're like, oh, so let's speed up. Fuck that. You're not getting in. I've been working this lane for the last 2 hours. No way you're getting in front of me. Like, let him in.
Yeah, just wave to him.
And when the guy behind you honks at you because you slowed down, like, wave him too. Hey, no problem. I'm just letting this guy in.
With all 5 fingers, wave to him.
Right, exactly. But that's the idea is find all those things that just put you over the top and think to yourself, okay, what am I doing here? Like, okay, there's 13 cars parked behind me, and I'm at a red light, and someone wants to merge into traffic. You could see there's 6 cars in front of you, and no one's letting them in. Like, what is the big deal if they get let in? Well, they cut off all this traffic and blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
okay, what are you? You're now the police? Like, let them in. And everyone's going to be pissed. Who's everyone? What, the 19 cars behind you that will forget this moment 15 seconds after it's happened because their life is already miserable enough? Like, let them in. Like, go out of your way. Like, you're standing there, you got a cart full of groceries, and the dude walks up behind you and he's got a stack of bread and a freaking energy drink. Bro, you want to go in front of me? No, I can't ask it. Like, seriously, I got 38 items in my basket. Why would you not let him go? Well, that guy's attitude changes. Someone's sitting there rooting around and they trying to find change in their purse and they're paying for something. Like, just put the dollar on the counter. Like, I got you. Like, well, you have to do that. Like, no, I don't. But why wouldn't I? It was in my hand. It's $1.
You'd be amazed, man. It's crazy the simple things that you can do that just change the world.
Right.
You don't even realize.
But you wake up with that thought, like, I'm going to change the world today. One little thing at a time, whether it's a smile, it's a positive thought, it's a statement. Wow, your hair looks amazing today. It's all of those little things that push someone else to go, I needed that. Whether they knew they needed it or not, we just go in like this into our life. It's going to suck today and everyone's fucking going to kill me and everyone's an asshole. And like, wow, open your eyes, see how awesome shit is. That's simple.
It is. There's a quote. It's funny. Everybody wants to change the world, but nobody wants to help mom do the dishes.
Right.
Like, yeah. Everybody wants a better world, but nobody's willing to smile at each other. Everybody wants a better world, but nobody's willing to say, hi, how you doing? Oh, no, it's just $1 here. Here you go. Right. Or I'll put your shopping cart back. It's not a big deal. I'll let you in on the road. Like, everybody wants to do a better world, but what are you willing to do about it? You don't, it doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be fucking, crazy what you do. It can be simple,
Super simple. So
one of the simplest things you can do. No.
I'll end on this. Life's a choice. And I know that sounds, kind of cliche and stupid and everything, but it really is. It's like, whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, you choose to be that way. My life, I think John's life as well, is everything's an opportunity. Everything it brought me here is supposed to bring me somewhere else. All right, I'll give it a whirl. There are situations I've been in where I'm like, holy shit, like, this is bad. And how did I get here? And oh my God, like, what's going to happen next? And this is terrible. But I always look at it like, okay, what's my choice? I can fall apart or I can stand up and go, all right, let's face this thing head on. And I do that every day. Does that make me this great person, whatever? No, it's just my own inner thought, but it's worked out pretty damn well. And I put my head on the pillow every night and say, like you said, gratitude. All right, today was a good day. Had a couple punches. I'm still standing. Not a bad day. And I ask that you do the same. Put it out to yourself. Like, what was so bad about today? Because somehow you still put your head on a pillow, and somehow you still had food in your belly, and somehow you were able to smile. I hope a little bit because of a choice. We'll keep making better choices, and all of a sudden, life gets a little bit better day by day, minute, second by second, whatever you want to say. Like, make the choice. If you choose bad, well, then freaking own it. Like, you made that shit choice. Make a different choice tomorrow. That's my piece. Be smiley.
I'm going to back that up 100%. I totally support everything that you just said.
All right. Perfect.
No, we're done. We're wrapping up. The smartest choice that you can make, though, here's the ending thing. The smartest choice you can make right now to change your life is subscribing to this podcast to make sure that you get content like this on a regular basis, because that's the movement, right? We're trying to make the world a better place. We're trying to make your life better, happier, more joyous, healthier, all those things, right? Because we're setting goals, we're challenging the assumptions that we make about everything being horrible and negative and all that stuff. We're here to grow. We're here to do better. We're here to be better. And we're going to provide you the information that you need to do so. And of course, we're going to provide a few laughs along the way because
that's what we do.
That's what we're like, stand-up comedians here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so subscribe, like, comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you, in this case, like, what's so hard? What do you struggle with the most, so we can have this conversation? I want to know your optimistic and pessimistic thoughts, so we can talk about them further.
And make fun of them.
Make fun of them.
And that's our story.
That's the attitude. Anyway, we will see you guys later.
Peace
Until
out,
next
guys.
time.